All right, let's go out to Arkansas and talk to Holly. What's up, Holly?
Holly, yes, how are you?
Sometimes when people are like, John, I like to yell my first name too. John! It's so good. What's up?
Not much. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Of course, thanks for calling. Sorry for hanging up on you earlier. What's
That's
up?
okay. Well, I was just going to get your advice on something and see how it goes.
Let's just see how it goes. You know what? That's probably the wisest response of any caller ever. So what's up? What's up?
Well, I need some help getting my husband to understand how detrimental some of the things he says to my son are about his ADHD behaviors when he's frustrated with him.
Now you're getting all into my business now, Holly. Like,
well, it's my world too.
That's in my soul. Is this kid his son also?
Yes.
Okay, so it's y'all's kid.
Yes, our child.
And I want you to know that just as the call is starting, your language is very instructive. And I'll tell you why in a minute. That's really important. But go ahead. Okay, I won't interrupt you anymore. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's just when we try to talk about it, I'm sure that I'm oversensitive and overcompensate because I also have ADHD. Okay, maybe not.
Go ahead.
But he's one of those be tougher. You know, if you let me spank him, this would end. And we've got to get on the same page, but I kind of feel like we're not even in the same library, and I'm kind of stuck on this one.
So when you say, oh man, okay, I've got to say this first because it's just burning a hole in my chest, and then I'm going to circle back, okay? For your husband, for everybody listening, you cannot beat ADHD out of a human being. You can't hit them. You can't spank them, or whatever word you want to use for beating your child, but you cannot beat ADHD out of a kid. Period. End of discussion. All right, so I needed to say that out loud. All right, let's circle back. When you say your husband's struggling with his ADHD behaviors, walk me through. What are some things that frustrate? What are some things that are hard to live with an ADHD kid?
Well, my husband's super not ADHD, so he's structured, routine, always prepared, and my son is forgetful, distracted, impulsive, forgets to where his shoes are, doesn't hear the first, a couple times you ask him to do something, he may nod, but it didn't go in. Just those typical things. He's not out of control or, getting in trouble at school or anything like that. It's just at home, it's very hard for my husband to understand the world of an ADHD person because he is so regimented and opposite.
Mm-hmm. So this isn't what you're asking, but I'm going to put this out there as a point of reference. ADHD is a complicated thing, but ultimately the best way I've heard it distilled down by the great Gabor Mate is ADHD is a body's long-term response to chaos, to disconnection. Okay. And there is even some evidence, according to Dr. Mate, that begins in utero in some cases. Okay. So also an over obsession with routine and this is the way this should be and this is the way this has to be can also be a body's way of trying to create control out of chaos. So I want to frame what's going on in your home. It may be two sides of the same coin. Okay? And you know this better than anybody because, as you said, you've lived with this your whole life. The thing that your son needs more than anything in the world as a starting point is to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that his dad loves him. Not how he performs, not how he gets everything right and in the perfect order, but that his dad loves him. And that, my friend, is the place from which the other behaviors can be constructed. Because I'm also not one of these guys that lets ADHD kids just run amok. That's nonsense too. They don't like that life either. I didn't like that life. I still don't like that life. I still need high accountability. But it has to start from a place of there will be no bigger fan in your life than your dad. Period. And mom is going to have to hold son accountable too, right? So here's what I see often. I see one of a couple of things. One, dad is got too much going on in his own life. And so the thoughtful, patient practice that is parenting is frustrating because in his mind and body, he doesn't have time for it. That's number one. Or there are parents who see any sort of forgetfulness as disrespect, as lazy, because they also see ADHD kids laser in on Legos or laser in on a video game or laser in on writing a novel, right? And so they say, if you can do it there, you can do it here, right? Or is that your house?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
you know all those dinosaur names. Why can you remember that?
There you go.
Blah, blah.
There you go, man. and that usually leads to the third thing, which is moms and dads, everybody, we all do it. We use our kids' behavior as some sort of scorecard for how we're doing as adults.
Yes.
And if my kid can't put his shoes away, that means I'm failing, and I'll be damned if I'm going to fail.
Yes.
Does that sounds right?
Yes.
Okay.
I see there's this head shake and this look of defeat on my husband's face sometimes when he's looking at him, just like kind of like he's throwing his hands up, like I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And you know this because this was you as a kid.
Yes. Yes.
But you know
100%.
that there is no worse feeling being an ADHD kid and feeling like you just failed your adults to the point the adults quit on you.
Yes.
It's collapsing, which then sends the body off careening, trying to solve for the chaos, and the whole system loops back up, except it loops a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster. Because that body's telling that kid, hey, because of you ran dad off.
Yeah.
And that,
and that's when my son goes in for the physical touch because he wants the hugs and the holding and that's his, I guess, way to.
No, that's going back to what I said a few minutes ago. The number one thing a kid with ADHD has to know is the adults in his life will go to hell for him. They will fight for that kid no matter what, and they love that kid no matter what, and that does include a ton of touch, especially from dad. And from there, we can have conversations about choices and conversations about upstream and conversations about getting enough sleep and getting off screens and some of those things that I've seen anecdotally, and I think the literature it's kind of mixed, but I don't trust some of that literature these days. That exacerbates ADHD. I know sleep for sure, and I know diet for sure. But some of those things upstream, right? And when you get a full night's sleep or when your son gets a full night's sleep, the morning's different. We all know those things.
Yes.
But man, it's tough to get a kid to go to sleep when he feels like he's trying to fend off or make his dad feel better.
Yes.
Which isn't his job. So here's the hard part about this call. This call is best had between me and your husband, not between me and you.
I know, and that I've gone to therapy to work on mine, and they suggested coming, but he's not really receptive to that. And
why?
Not a feelings guy.
I don't give a crap about that. He is a feelings guy. He just has a very sophisticated mechanism for shutting that system down.
Oh, yeah. And he knows. I mean, I've talked about how he probably has PTSD, and he's like, well, doesn't everybody have something? And just. Is
he a veteran?
No, he grew up in Southwest Little Rock when it was major gang violence and that. So he's got a lot of hardened stuff there.
Yeah. So here's.
And I've read Scattered, and I've told him, if you would listen to it or read it or something, it would help him understand. He kind of looks at me like I'm an alien, and
Okay. So here's where we have to go from here. Okay. Um, and I you know what I'm about to say, but me saying it out loud is going to be very hard to hear. Okay.
Okay.
And I know I just kind of talked out of both sides of my mouth, but both things can be true at the same time. This is a very generalized Neanderthal way of looking at things, all right? But in the grand scheme, or in the anthropological sense, if you will, it's mom's job to circle up and protect young kids. And it's dad's job to protect the system, okay? The unit,
Mm-hmm.
all right? Now, we're in the 21st century, and most of us work on computers. I realize life is different, and there's not people chasing us with clubs. But I just paint that picture for this reason. There comes a moment when if your husband or your wife, depending on who's listening to this, is hurting your child, the other parent has to step in. And stepping in looks different for everybody. And I'm very reluctant to give somebody their or what statement. That's something that is very personal. But at the end of the day, your husband is choosing. You handed him the roadmap, which is the book by Dr. Mattei. You handed him that roadmap. I don't know of a better book. And if I was sitting there with my son, and I've had these moments in these seasons when I don't feel like like he's talking Spanish and I'm talking like, I don't know, Swahili, and we are on different planets. We're not even talking the same. We're so disconnected. And somebody handed me a map back to my son. You better believe that'd be everything else in my life would stop. And so in a strange way, your husband is choosing misery, and he's choosing to have a broken relationship with his son, not to head to healing. He's also choosing to have a broken relationship with his wife because you've asked him to go to counseling with you. You've asked him to be a part of healing the family unit and building something new, and he's looked at you and said no. And that puts you on an island to either watch this continue with your son and let this thing continue on in another family system and yet another family system, or you step in and say, this ends with me and my son. What does that look like in real life? That looks like you when there's no fighting. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times on the show. Not in the middle of a fight, because lines are drawn at that point. This is you saying, hey, I want to go out. And you telling your husband, I want you and our son to have a great relationship, and my son needs his dad. And right now my son has a drill sergeant, or my son has somebody who's really frustrated with him, and he has the distinct impression that his dad doesn't like him, much less love him. Would you be willing to try something else? Because what we're doing is not working. He's not finding his shoes. He's not suddenly making his bed. And more volume, more hitting, more film, those aren't working. Will you be willing to try something else? And I'm trying to intentionally make this about an offer of, I want your life to be better too. Because here's the deal: your husband doesn't want to have a bad relationship with his son. He's out of tools, right? He loves that boy.
Yes.
He loves that boy.
Very much.
He just keeps reaching into his toolkit, and he only has a screwdriver. That's it.
Correct.
And quite honestly, I bet his dad had no tools in his toolkit, right?
No, probably not.
So he's trying, right? And I love that.
His dad says all the time, I see him in me, because his dad's like super soft guy now, but he'll say, I see him, or me and him all the time.
Does he like that, or is he trying to avoid that?
My husband?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, my father-in-law says that about my husband. He'll say,
gotcha.
I used to be like that, and now he's different. He's retired. He's looking back on everything, and so that surprises me, because he is such a soft guy.
I know many men who look back and say, man, I would have done that differently. And sometimes it's, I would have kicked my kid out of my basement.
Right.
I let my kid play way too many video games, and I would have had his butt in a gym. I would have had his butt out of the house. I would have signed him up for stuff. And also, there's a lot of dads that look back and say, my God, what did I do? I tried to beat love into my child. I tried to beat mental illness out of them. I tried to yell and kick and scream peace into their heart. And I tried to get a kid to make sure that I wasn't mad, and that was never the kid's job. Man, that's a common regret. A really common regret. So I want to honor the fact that your husband loves your son. I know that. I also benefited greatly from having a wife that said no more. Because I was really frustrated when my kid was 2, when my kid was 3, and my kid was 4. I didn't know what I was doing. And I had a wife that said, this has to stop. And it wasn't bad or egregious or anything like that, but it was, I need to get some new skills. And I would put my relationship up with my son over anybody's. It's pretty powerful. Here's healing in 101 for ADHD. Something as simple as, how old's your kid?
10.
10? Yeah. Perfect. I can't tell you the magic in my home. Again, not talking about my son's diagnostics or anything like that. He didn't have any diagnostics. That they start a weekly breakfast together and they just go talk and they hang out. That they play and wrestle together. That we're practicing. So when your kid forgets his shoes, cool. Let's go find the shoes. And if you choose to not know where your shoes are, then you're choosing to not go fishing, man. Because we only have this much time to go fishing. And there's 1 or 2 times we cancel the fishing trip, and it's a bummer for everybody. But we can't go fishing without shoes. And kids learn upstream about choices and learn upstream. And it's not this panic and this yelling and this, oh my gosh, dad's going to be so mad. My kids know they really, really can't make me mad because I don't give them that power. All of this is creating a peaceful home so that the kid whose body is over fired up all the time can actually function. Just turns the music down on everything. And you've experienced that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you have to watch this because I know it's hard to watch.
It is. It's especially when I know, because a lot of it is I know what to do, but I kind of lack the structure to follow through with some of it because I get, distracted. And
it may really be important for you to work. Well, if you've got a chaotic home, because I guarantee you and I could have another 2 or 3 phone calls because this isn't the only thing going on in your house. I know.
Exactly. Well, we've worked on, because like I said, I've gone to therapy and worked through a lot of things. And thank goodness Dave Ramsey found his way into my husband's ear several years ago on the deer stand. And so we don't have money fights anymore. So this really is kind of the last, but you're right. There are several other layers that kind of come back to this.
Okay. Well, if he would have the courage, I'd love to talk to him and with a spirit of love and a spirit of, hey man, there's a different way to do this.
Okay.
I'd love
appreciate
to.
that.
And this isn't me wanting to fight anybody. I have no interest in fighting anybody, but I do want dads to learn new tools for how to love their sons. And I want parents, both moms and dads, to have new tools to create households so that their kids can be successful. And we've just had a generation of kids that we thought we would just get louder and get more angry and more raged out, and that would work. And look around, guys, it's not working. It's not. And for the bro downs listening to the show, no, I'm not talking about not holding kids accountable. Accountability is a cornerstone. No, I'm not talking about getting rid of consequences. Are you kidding me? Consequences are critical. But I'm also talking about 10-year-olds. 10, 6, 4, 12. Moms and dads, we can do better. Thank you for the call, Holly. I'll be here for you guys. Holler at me anytime I can help.